Yeah. Well, this brings us to a theme, at least one of the themes you have in common with Frode or Samuel's book, the setting and the ice cold location. So maybe that's something interesting to talk to you both about. The importance of setting in your book. Of course, already you described how Emma, how important it is for the story and the location, and how it inspired for you to write the story. But still, in general, do you, while writing and telling the story, do you feel it really changes the characters, the setting that you put them in, if you know what I mean?
I feel I think particularly because of the books I'm writing, where they're quite extreme climates. Yes, it has. I mean, the climate almost becomes a character in itself and interacting with the human characters in the story. So for me, it's enormously important. Yeah.
And did you find that because I can only imagine that you started out with your character and you had her pictured, you had her in mind, and you probably had all these details written down, her characteristics and stuff like that. And when you put her in that situation, did she react the way you expected her to react, or is this too romantic an idea of thinking about writing?
Well, I'm quite a lazy writer, really. So I'm not one of these people who draws up huge, long lists of character questions and so on. I tend to get to know my character through the act of writing the story, and then go back and when I've got to the end of the first draft, I know them a lot better, and then I can go back and weave more details in,
all right, yeah,
when I go into editing.
And Frode, how is that for you? Is the setting, well, of course you have it is important in the stories, but how is it for you in your storytelling? Is the setting of the story important?
Yeah, of course. It's like if you make a movie, I mean, the movie set or the setting for the movie, the visual aspect of everything is extremely important. And maybe it sounded very exciting, your book about Antarctica, I had to say, and also the desert. I kind of like the location start of things where you're kind of locked in, because that's kind of how our life feels up here. We're kind of stuck.
I'm sure you could imagine it a great deal better than me. I'm actually in the southwest of the UK, right next to the Gulf Stream, so snow is actually pretty rare.
I have no problem imagining that. I was in the army when I was young, way up north, and it was like this, you know.
Wow.
Yeah.
That must be tremendous.
I don't know. Did I get your question, Tom?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, but no, I was just. I mean, it's sort of a coincidence that both your books have this wintry setting to them, and it always fascinates me how that the setting, like Emma just said, it can become sort of a character of its own. You know, that's and I think also for you, Frode, the books you write and your Scandinavian colleagues as well, they appeal so much to readers here. It's the characters are one thing, but I do believe it's also the setting of the stories, the setting that appeal to our imagination in one way or another.
Yeah, it's kind of strange for me because I've done a lot of interviews and they ask me why are these Scandi thrillers so popular, and I'm not I'm from here, so I can't see the excitement. But what they tell me is it's that you guys, you see this place as a kind of an exotic, strange, dark, ice-cold jungle. So I guess that's what makes it extra interesting to see what we're thinking up here.
Yeah, I think that's true. I mean, they're enormously popular in the UK, and also the TV programs like The Killing were absolutely huge here. So I think it's a sort of popular trope of the imagination for a lot of English people.
Yeah. So,
but it's also while I mean Norway or Scandinavia as a whole, but Norway also they don't have a history of a lot of killings. I mean, your books tell some gruesome stories, but they're not ripped from the headlines that every month, you know, stuff like that happens in Norway, or does it?
No, actually, well, you're correct. I mean, nothing really happens up here. Like I think I know the killings. Me myself, I know every killing that has happened in Norway the last 20 years.
Really? That's amazing. Gosh.
Yeah, so rare, is it?
How?
it's so rare that it happens. It doesn't happen that often.
Well, people are killed, but not in these gruesome book storytelling ways. You know, it happens that people.
So you mean more serial killers, more psychopathic killings, I guess, rather than domestic violence? Or...
Yeah, we have the domestic violence things, but we don't have much of the other, you know, serial killers. So we have to make that up.
We haven't got that many in the UK either, but you know.
No. I mean, we're only 5 million people, so yeah, and we always come kind of high in the rankings of countries that are, I don't know, nice to live in, I guess. So they don't consider the weather in these rankings. They just consider the school systems and the amount of murders. So I guess we rank high there.
Maybe also for both of you, you tell the stories for the readers, and you write it as a book. But can you imagine the stories being made into a TV series or a movie? Is that something you think about while writing? Because both of your books are very cinematic. Really, you can almost see what happens before your eyes. Is that something you think about while writing?
I can't say it is. I mean, I do know a lot of writers who have had options put on their books and made either TV series or occasionally a film or a movie, but it's not something that's generally at the forefront of my mind, although I am trying to visually imagine things as I write them, and I'll use things like pictures as a way of getting myself into the right mindset of what I'm aiming at.
Yeah, well, I've had a few options on my books. They are still in the trying to agree on who's going to make the series. But I think it's just my style of writing. I like to write visually. You know, the things that inspire me when I write are often series. You know, like she said, like The Killing and these things. I like the way that the picture tells a story. You know. And I always imagine trying to write the book as if the reader could go into the book and be in a movie, you know, not just like look at the movie or read the book, but I want to try to, that line between the reader and the text, I want to visualize it as much as you kind of feel that you go into, if you live in the movie, when you read the book, that's what I want to try to do.
And I know that the inspiration came from a TV series, but in your writing, do you look at the news, and where do you get your inspiration from for the stories you write?
Me?
Yeah, for instance.
Just my head. You know, I have to satisfy my strange head. That's why I write. You know, the news and those stories are too normal for me. You know, like they don't satisfy me. They don't satisfy my interest. So I write just to kind of get my crazy head down on paper, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I have been influenced by news stories. My first YA thriller was based on quite a famous case of a French man who impersonated missing teenagers. So that definitely came from that source. But in general, I think it's a mix of things I've heard or things that, yeah, generally things you imagine or you work out in terms of plot and so on.
I was also thinking about, and I guess this goes for both of you as well, that because both of your books have a sense of claustrophobia to them in one way or another. For Emma, even more so, I guess. Over the last year or year and a half, your readers have really grown into this experience themselves as well. So I can only imagine we can really relate to what you're writing about, right?
Exactly. I mean, that was the irony, was we've all lived in our own Antarctica in a way, in so much as we have often been stuck in small area with a tight-knit group of people, so much easier to imagine how that things could escalate, or the sort of sense of isolation and depression that can ensue from that situation.
Yeah, I don't know about your countries, but here we have a lot of stories of people really going crazy because they're stuck, and they're stuck together. And like the rate of divorce has just skyrocketed because you suddenly realize that the person you married, well, I didn't want to actually be with this person this much.
Too much exposure.
It was too much. So, and that can be a good thing in a way, I guess. You get to know the way the people that you're close to really affect you. But but a lot of sad stories as well of what's happened when people get stuck. So I can really relate to your book. It sounds really exciting.
Okay, we're getting a lot of questions from the audience. I'm going to try and see how far we can get with them. Inga asks, why is Frode using a pseudonym, and why is it Samuel Bjørk? I think you mentioned it a bit before, but
yeah, I felt I was going to do something I have never done before, and I found it very interesting just to hide myself. And what is more interesting than a hidden writer, And by doing that, I could open my mind. I could do whatever I wanted to do. And Samuel Bjørk, it's just Samuel. He sounded like a guy you would trust. And the Bjørk is the name of the birch, the tree, very beautiful.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So that's why I chose it. So.
Oh, I like that.
Emma, there's a question from you, from Miriam. Did you know how the story was going to end, or did you let Kate lead the way?
I quite often don't know exactly how it's going to end, but so I spent a long time thinking about it. It's not uncommon for me to get 2/3 of the way in, and even though I've planned it out quite carefully, I leave room for, say, a surprise ending. So it took a while to decide, and then my agent suggested it was somebody else, and so we argued about that for a while. And I put my foot down and said, hell no, that's not happening.
I think that happened to you as well, Frode, once, right? That halfway through the book, the killer you had in mind changed.
Yes, it always happens to me. I try my best to plot out the books, and I just hope the characters will do as I say, and the murder will be who I thought. But often it's not like that, and I'd have to change everything. So and what I think that makes it organic and interesting as well,
Yes, I think even if you are a plotter, as I am, I think the subconscious brain will suddenly throw up some of the best ideas. It will suddenly say, well, why not? Or you can literally have had the experience of literally in the middle of a scene, and then one of the characters just says something that I wasn't predicting at all, and I'll suddenly think, oh, well, that makes total sense,
Yeah, isn't that really interesting how your brain works? Because your kind of normal brain says, yeah, we have to do it this way and this way. This is the best way. And then suddenly something happens, your subconscious, or whatever you call it, I find that very
Stephen King used to call it the boys in the basement. He said, whenever you get stuck, you just walk away and you leave it to the boys in the basement. In my case, the girls in the basement. And it's often quite true. If you get stuck, if you just go away, go on a walk, go to sleep, the next day, suddenly the solution is just there. They've done the work.
I think it was Dashiell Hammett who said, if you ever get stuck, just let a man with a gun enter the room and see what happens then.
Well, true. There's always that. As I said, we've made guns illegal in the UK, so it's a bit tricky, but
even more exciting then.
Yeah, that makes it more exciting, maybe. Marianne asks, if you could sit down with someone you admire, dead or alive, who would it be and why?
My goodness.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
I think for me, it would probably be Jane Austen, who is about as far away from a thriller writer as you can imagine, but just such an extraordinary woman. And I would just love to meet her and meet her mind. And,
what appeals you in her writing, or her as a person? By the sound of it, you know a bit more about it than just the books.
I think she was just such an incredibly clever woman, and so adept in irony and satire and just sort of gently mocking things, but never losing sight of a story and the characters and so. And she was also an enormously important social commentator in terms of the positions of women at that time in the UK, at least.
Great, yeah. And Frode, how about you?
Well, I don't know. I think I would have to choose either Bret Easton Ellis, who wrote American Psycho.
I love that. One of my very favorite books. Love it.
Really? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's the first book that made me sick. You know, I was really sick to my stomach. I hardly could read it. I was so impressed on how he did that. Or
I just laughed. It was so funny. I mean, it's such a brilliant bit of satire on American society in the 90s. Absolutely extraordinary, yeah.
Or, I mean, the Bronte sisters. Yes. I would love to have dinner with the Bronte sisters. I think they did just amazing things, thinking about the time that they lived in, you know. And my girlfriend has pictures of the Bronte sisters hanging here. So, and
really?
Yeah. So I could bring her
a great family dinner.
We could go together. You know?
Yeah. Okay, that's very good. That's very good. Ash van Elsingen, I'm not sure about the full name. This is specifically for Samuel. Can you start with this book or the other books first?
I mean, you can read them in any order you like. I think that's why it's the hard thing about writing a series. I mean, you have to write a standalone every time because you don't know where the reader wants to jump in. So I try to carefully write the books so you can go in and read only one book. But if you want to read them all, there's no spoilers. Nothing will be destroyed if you read them in a different setting. But I think
that must be a real challenge to get in the backstory to sort of so people new to the series, get them up to speed with what's happened to the character without actually slowing down the pace of the story you're telling this time around.
Yes, it's
that would scare me, having to do that.
Yeah, it's hard. It's like walking a thin line.
Yeah,
but,
I just wanted to ask you, Emma, if it would be something for you to do as well. Do you have any characters you want to return to in another book?
I have been asked this by readers, but actually I just seem to be, once I've written one book, I'm kind of done. That's it. That's the story. I've never really been tempted to go back, because I don't know what, I've just expressed what I wanted to through those characters. But I really admire people who do have series, and particularly, I'm interested in asking Frode, do you get, because as a journalist I get quite hung up on facts and things like that, how do you sort of acquaint yourself with police procedure to the point where you feel sure that, yes, this is what they would do or say or how they would react and so on?
It's not my specialty, you know.
You've not been in the police, you've done everything else.
I try to wing it, you know. I'm imagining.
You just hope for the best.
I'm imagining. Just basic documentary research. I read the police newspaper, and I get up to speed with the latest technology. But it's like anything else as a writer. You can write a fireman, you could write a 11-year-old girl. I mean, that's our job, to be able to get into these characters and be what they want to be. And my lead character, Mia Krieger, she's a psychological profiler of serial killers, and I always do all the profiling myself. You know, so I can also have some fun, you know, while writing.
Yeah, I can imagine. So do you have any friendly police officers you can go and, you know, ask them if this would happen or what they would do in that instance or so on?
No, I don't. And I'm not sure if they would help much, you know. I mean,
they'd spoil your plot intentions. They'd say, no, you can't do that.
Real police work, it takes years, you know. You follow a footprint. They did that in a case in Norway. They follow the shoe
Wow.
And they 11 months they spent on that shoe. You know, if the book would be 400,000 pages, you know, so you kind of have to do some shortcuts. Pretend that they're better than they actually are, I guess.
I couldn't really tell who the question is from. This is quite interesting. Is it easier to write about a character you sympathize with or one you don't? So is it easy to write the good guy, or is it easy to write to the baddie?
Well, from my point of view, I always write first-person narratives, so you're actually in the head of the character, and I write present tense as well, because I like the sort of immediate, because we all live our lives in our own heads in the present tense. So for me, that feels a very natural way to write a character. But you Frodo, different, you know, changing perspectives and so on, don't you?
Yeah, in my art writing, I used to do first person now, because like you said, this is how we live, this is how everyone experiences everything, and I wanted to be as up close to that experience as possible. But then now I write third person to get more of a perspective of things, because I can use different techniques. And I find it easier to write the characters who are nice, but sometimes more interesting to write the characters who are not so nice, because they kind of, it's not me. So I really have to look in places in my head that I really do not want to go. You know, I have to find evil where there's no evil. So easier to write nice people, but maybe more interesting to write people who are not perfect, you know.
I think I like to write flawed characters, so people who are nice or not nice, depending on, particularly if you don't know them well, because I think all people, in a sense, are a mixture, aren't they? So I suppose I do need to like them, but I don't need to like them, but I do need to understand them, I guess.
True. I agree with that. I have to understand what their thought process is and who they are.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. Well, I'm afraid time flies when you're having fun, is what they say. This is all we have time for. I want to thank you both very, very much for joining us this evening. There were a couple of more questions, but we just can't get to them all. But thank you for everybody for posing the questions. That was really interesting and entertaining. And thank you, Emma and Frode, for answering them. Once again, the books Sneeuwwit out in stores tomorrow, and Het Donker by Emma Haughton. I do urge you all to check them both out. They're very exciting books by two lovely authors who were with us this evening. Thank you very much.